Hi, my name is Shane. I use she and her pronouns, and this is the first session in a quarterly game of Fate of the Faerie Queen, which is a reskin of Fate of Cthulhu from Evil Hat Games. Had this idea for a while. When I read Fate of Cthulhu a while back, I really liked it. I liked the idea of these time traveling heroes trying to prevent the apocalypse, but I'm not so into the Cthulhu mythos, the Lovecraftian stuff. So was thinking about what other sorts of devastating supernatural threats could be so overwhelming and impossible to deal with that you would have to travel back in time to try and give yourself a chance, and somehow settled on the Faerie Queen, on the Fae. I've only run a little Fate before. I have really enjoyed it when I have. I think some of you have played quite a lot of Fate, so I'll probably be deferring to some of you on any rules areas that I'm unclear on, or checking with the table about that stuff. Today's session was organised as part of the Gauntlet gaming calendar. So if you're not familiar, Gauntlet is an online gaming community that plays and organises and discusses a whole lot of role-playing games with a focus on indie and story games. If you would like to find out more or come play a game with us, check out gauntlet-rpg.com or @gauntletrpg on Twitter. Now I'm going to ask the players to introduce themselves. So just go around in the order that I can see you on my screen. If you could tell us your name and pronouns, anything that you want to tell us about yourself, and just a couple of specific things that I like to hear are whether you have played Fate before, and what you're hoping to get out of this game, or what made you sign up for it. So Kyle, can I get you to go first?
Yes, I'm Kyle, he, they. I signed up for the game because I wanted to play Fate of Cthulhu, and adding in fairies instead of Cthulhu, that sounded pretty fun. So it sounded very interesting.
Cool. Have you played Fate before?
Yes, not for 5 years, I think.
That's sweet. Thank you. Matt?
Hello, my name is Matt. I use any pronouns. I have never played Fate before. I've used Fate dice in a game of Shadow of Yesterday before, and I've read a little bit of Fate, but I've never actually played Fate. So very excited about that. I signed up because I love fairy lore and fairy stories. I've just been reading quite a bit of that, or the Bitterbind trilogy and a few other kinds of stories that got me really excited about this kind of thing. And all-star game, cool people. And yeah, I guess I'm excited about a quarterly to get to sort of dig into a character and play in a sort of modern setting while also, modern fantasy setting, and kind of clashing some of that stuff. I like the pitch of nightclubs and countrysides and that sort of thing.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Lowell?
My name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, and I have played Fate for a while, and I've done a lot of variants of Fate, and I played a short game of Fate of Cthulhu last year, which I really enjoyed, but it was very compressed. And so I was excited to have a chance to play this in an extended way to let the scenes have a little more time to breathe. So I'm excited about that.
Cool, thank you. And Jose?
Hey, I'm Jose. My pronouns are he and him. I've played Fate maybe 3 times and really enjoyed it. I really love working with aspects as part of the game. And and then I saw the description, and there were a lot of things that attracted me to it. Some of them already mentioned, that it's a quarterly, that we can have a more relaxed pace. And the theme of the Fae, I think, is really cool, and the lore is really cool. So I'm all on board.
Sweet. I don't know how relaxed the pace is actually going to be. I feel like we might be still moving pretty quickly, but we'll see how we go. Thanks, everyone. So I like to start a game just with a quick CATS procedure for concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. So concept-wise, I think we're all pretty clear about this. The the premise is that some of your characters have come back from the future and recruited the remainder of your characters to try and prevent the rise of the Faerie Queen before she can destroy the world. The way that works is that we'll play out a series of 5 events. The 5th of those is the rise of the Faerie Queen herself, but the other 4 are kind of key events that lead towards her rise that you need to somehow intervene in or destabilize or stop to try and gain some advantage in that final battle. Aim-wise, we have 11 sessions on the calendar for this game. Based on past experience, I assume probably one of those will get cancelled for one reason or another. So I'm expecting really we'll get 10 sessions, and I might be nicely surprised with a bonus session towards the end. Sessions will all be 3 hours. We'll take short breaks on the hour. Aim for today specifically is to finish up this intro, set up our lines and veils and talk about safety tools. We'll build our characters together. I know a couple of you have gotten a head start on that. Yeah, and then I think we'll aim to get in a few short scenes to sort of set things up for the rest of the series, but more of an intro kind of session 0 type session today with a little bit of play. One thing we will do before we finish is that you have to decide which of the 4 events you want to play out first, so that I know what to start prepping for next time. Tone-wise, Fate of Cthulhu describes itself as more like the Terminator than Shadows over Innsmouth. So definitely expecting some sort of big action stuff, elements of creepiness and horror for sure. Premise is like pretty absurd, and definitely I expect there to be an element of campiness and humor to the game, but I think we'll probably be playing it pretty straight for the most part. Subject matter, as an action game with horror elements, I'd expect some violence. One of the events that I have sort of sketched out is set around a nightclub, so there could be references to alcohol and drug use, debauchery of various kinds. When I think of the Fae, I also think of kind of weird fairy sexuality, so maybe some of that. Other fairy tale tropes could include things like eating or threatening to eat children, other acts of cannibalism, and mind control, things like that. All of those things, I am very happy to be guided by your preferences. Like none of that is baked into the game. If anyone is uncomfortable with any of that, it's totally fine to leave it out. So that brings us nicely to lines and veils. If you haven't already, could I get you to open up the character keeper in the Google Drive and navigate to the safety and resources tab? So on the left-hand side there, you'll see a list of topics and a set of columns for lines, veils, and ask first. Just to explain briefly how I use these, there are 3 different ways that we can deal with content that we want to limit in the game that we're playing together. So a line is something that we just don't want to include in the story at all. We're not going to mention it. It's not going to come up. A veil is something that might be part of the story, but it's not going to be a focus. We're just going to skip past it quickly or fade to black or something along those lines. And ask first is any topic where we're not going to make a blanket rule about it, but we'll all stop and check in with each other before we introduce it in the story. I did just want to flag a couple of topics that I've added to that list specifically for this game. You'll see that for harm to animals and children, I've broken those down into fairy tale and realistic categories. So just like that thing I was saying, like if it's okay for the witch to eat the child, but you don't want to deal with, actual sort of realistic child abuse, then that is meant to allow for that distinction. I also put in mind control separated out to affecting NPCs and affecting PCs if you want to make either of those or both of those topics a line, veil, or ask first. And of course, you're also welcome to add anything to that list that you would like to include. We've also got the romance matrix up there on the right, so you can express any preferences that you have about being included or not in possible romantic stories or plots that might come up in the game. I think I'll stop talking for a moment here and just give you a minute to fill those out to your satisfaction. When you're happy with it, if you could just type okay or done in the chat so I know that we're ready to keep going.
And while that happens, I'm going to try to switch computers.
Okay.
Don't be confused.
And Jose, were you happy with the list, or do you want a minute to? Oh. Is that better? Cool. And were you happy with the lines and veils, or do you want a minute to? Cool. And of course, like, feel free to go back to that list if you think of anything that you'd like to add later, or anything comes up that you want to change. Other safety tools that we'll be using are the X card. If anything does come up in the game that isn't fun for you for any reason, you can say you'd like to X card it, just say X or type an X in the chat, whatever you want to do. You don't need to explain why. We'll just go back, we'll take out that content, and we'll do something else that's better for everyone. You can X card something when it happens, obviously, but you're also welcome to X card something that's already happened. You know, if it, you don't realize in the moment, but then later on you realize that it wasn't good for you. It's fine to come back to something that we let go earlier. That's not a problem either. We're also using the open door, just meaning if you need to leave, you can leave. That can be to take a break because the real world is intruding in whatever way. I think I have a package delivery coming, so I might need to BRB at some point. Or it can be because you've decided that, you know, the game's not for you. I feel a bit conscious that my idea of the Fae might not be everyone's. So if it turns out this isn't really what you were wanting, that's fine. You know, don't stick around for 12 sessions if you're not having fun. If you do use the open door, if you can let us know whether you'll be back, that's great. But if you just need to go, that's okay as well. And sort of just generally with safety as well, we have our specific tools that we're using, but I also encourage you just to stop and check in if there's anything that you're not sure about. If you notice that we're getting near to something that's on our safety tab, or if you notice that someone looks like they may be less comfortable with what's happening or not having a good time, or you're not sure about the direction we're heading in, I will always be grateful if you just pause and, you know, ask. We can stop the game, we can talk about it, we can make sure everyone's happy and work out what's the best way to proceed that's going to be good for everyone. So that's my opening spiel. Any questions about any of the sort of introductory stuff? I mean, obviously, if any questions do come up, you're welcome to ask anytime. So it'll be time to make characters. I'll try not to talk about this too much, but just wanted to give you some info that you're going to need to make decisions here. So in the Drive folder, I've put a one-page summary called Character Creation Quick Reference. So that includes more of like the technical details of things that you might want to refer back to, you know, how to write stunts, what the different kinds of aspects are, things like that. If you need more information about anything that's in there, I've also included just the whole character creation chapter as a PDF in the folder, or obviously you can ask. Like we said, your characters can either be time travelers from the future or people they've recruited in the present. The mechanical difference that makes is if you're from the future, you're going to start the game already a little bit corrupted, or we're going to call it enchanted, by Fae magic. So if you're from the future, you'll start with an enchanted aspect and an enchanted stunt that goes with that. You're going to find that those are more powerful than the regular stunts that other people, the regular stunts that people get, but there is a cost that they can contribute to you becoming even more enchanted. And, you know, ultimately, if you were to enchant your high concept, falling completely victim to the control of the Fae, and may also sort of distort the timeline a little bit each time they're used. So just something to bear in mind. Mechanically, you're just picking stunts, skills, and aspects. That's what your character is made up of. And I mean, I think that's probably all I'll say, and just sort of leave you to go through and figure stuff out. Is there anything that people want to ask about, or do you want to talk? Maybe we should talk a little about what people's character ideas are. Sorry,
I have a quick timeline question.
Yeah.
It seemed as though 10 years from now is when the world will fall, like 10 years from the point that we travel back to. Is that right?
So my idea for the timeline is that the rise of the Faerie Queen happens in a year, and then 10 years in the future, the world has been completely destroyed. So she doesn't destroy everything immediately, but yeah, over the decade that follows, the world slowly falls, and it's at the end of that 10-year period that the time travelers are sent back.
Okay, that's
if you have an idea that doesn't work with that, I'm happy to vary it. Like, I'm not married to that timeline. 10 years is a pretty arbitrary number.
Yeah, I just wanted to know when we were coming back from, and it sounds like the end of that period. So that's perfect.
Do you have an idea for your character, Matt?
Yeah, I'm thinking of being sort of a rebel captain, like a man who grew up around the Northumberland forest, and like right in the deep old woods, and is armed with some ancestral knowledge, just like a child of the Isles, basically.
Cool.
And so a bit of like the lore side of it, but more like the stories lore side of it, and just things I've heard from my grandmother. But I want to be a bit of a brigand and a scallywag, and that kind of dude.
Cool. Kyle, do you have an idea of who you want to play?
Well, I'm not sure if this would work with like how fairies work in universe, but I was thinking about playing like a changeling from the future who's like defected.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, how fairies work is something that we're very much going to establish, like especially during this session, but then just in an ongoing way through the game. If there are elements of fairy lore that you want to make sure are included in the game, then yeah, working them into your character are great ways to make sure that happens. And Lol, do you want to just briefly tell us about the character that you're looking at?
So my basic concept is that my character is one of those humans who was enthralled, enchanted, in the service of one of these Fae senior people, and got cast down. And I mean, she's a real killer in her own ways, but very much unarmed kind of stuff. And I have some reasons for that, but that she's going back more because she's angry at being thrown down than she is about saving the world. And this is the best way for her to get revenge.
Cool.
So that's my conception.
Right. That's awesome. We'll do like more detailed character intros in a bit. And Jose, do you just want to tell us briefly who you're going to be playing?
Yeah, so my idea is that my character is a psychiatrist, a New York psychiatrist who has been seeing lots of patients who have been coming in with lots of delusions and stories, quote unquote, that he's beginning to suspect are not actual delusions, but are some kind of real threat from the supernatural threat. And he's always had a kind of been somewhat attuned to the supernatural, and he's used lots of his knowledge, extensive knowledge of pharmacology, to help in some of those explorations. So I'm thinking that he's in the present.
All right, that sounds awesome. So yeah, we'll just take some time now to make your characters or finish them up. I'm going to pause the recording so there's not a long silence. All right, so I've just restarted the recording. I did forget to do that for the first couple of character intros. So if anyone is watching or listening to this later, there will just be some mystery around Faydim and Dr C. But we'll pick that up later. But Matt, please go ahead.
I'm playing Sianad, also known as Bear to his comrades. Sianad grew up as a young man as a farmhand on the borderlands of the Northumberland forest in northern England. He was sort of let's say near a fairy hotspot when things started to pop off all around the globe, and a place that had already been rich with fairy lore and with some of the remaining believers in anywhere in the world. And so he grew up with tales told to him by his grandmother and his neighbors, and just the land was alive with the true presence of the fairy even before the queen made her rise. So he was uniquely prepared to understand and combat this threat, something that he always knew was dark and mysterious and maybe threatening if you get on the wrong side of it, but not actively hostile. And now that it is, he's got his mates together, and he spent 10 years on the frontier, kind of trying to manage some of the hot spots. I'm sure there is like one of the Faerie Queen's enforcers probably had a stronghold nearby, and so he was sort of a rebel captain, a bit of a brigand. Maybe he did some sailing in his days. I think he's just a rugged man with a head full of stories, fairy know-how and protection, and who's got a strong arm on him and can hold his own in a brawl and looks out for his friends.
That's awesome. So tell us about your trouble.
Yeah, my trouble is, so I think that Sianad is a person who I have his will at 4. So his 4 is in will. So he is a person who knows the fairy tricks. He knows what not to do. He knows not to make eye contact. He knows all the little intricacies. However, he did get in over his head and believed that there was an exception to the rule when he met. We can detail this character at some point. I don't actually have a lot of hard details right now. But he met, let's call him Thorn. He has long, beautiful black hair, and he is one of the enforcers of the Faerie Queen. He is very lithe and very hard to pin down. We can figure out more about him at some point, but Sianad had several meetings with him as a captain and his quarry might, but and it's I guess he was seduced, but in a way that he believed was sort of real, and that's probably not true, but there might be some truth in it, and so we'll find out how that tragic thing might come to a close.
That's awesome.
I'm working on my stunts. I have him as he's a legendary brawler, and he usually wins when he's least expected to. When I'm hopelessly outmatched, I can tap into fight. I might workshop these a little bit. I wanted something to do with he's always got charms on him, like bells and salts and irons and rowan and holly, and just like he's got everything his grandma told him to carry with him when he went deep into the woods. And I would like for to use a stunt in some way where I could help out my crew a little bit with that. I'm not sure how helping stunts work, or if they're mostly just supposed to be for your character, but
so I mean, just off the top of my head, I think probably something where, like, one of the basic actions in Fate is to create an advantage, where you get to create an aspect with a free invoke on it. So maybe something where when you create an advantage using a particular skill, in certain circumstances, you get an extra free invoke. Something like that is maybe like where I would go with that.
Okay, great.
So you're from the future. Do you have any thoughts about what your enchanted aspect or stunt might be?
My enchanted aspect or stunt, right?
Sorry, if the answer is you just need to think about that, that's fine.
Yeah, there was something before, but I think I just need to think about it.
Cool. That's awesome. Thank you very much. And Kyle, tell us about Maeve.
All right. Yes. Playing Maeve McClory. She's a changeling. So in this universe, I'm thinking of them as like, she doesn't have like Fae powers exactly. She was just sort of basically a real human kid got kidnapped, and then she was sort of made to fill the gap and eventually, spy for the Fae, like sneak into places, that sort of thing, learn information. So she was like literally made to be charming so she has ranks in like rapport, deceive, empathy, that sort of thing. Eventually defected from the Fae to join the human side, and well, since then they've sort of been after her, and I think some sort of the Fae curse, whatever it is that they have that they put on her when she left. I think there are things after her even now in the past. They probably don't know why they're after her, but they are.
That's cool. So I mean the way you phrase the aspect is that the hounds have your scent. Is hounds literal, like, or is that just like a general like the Fae are coming for you kind of thing? Like, what are the hounds?
I was thinking literal Fae, like magic Fae hunting hounds.
That's awesome.
But feel free to keep it more like, I mean,
sure.
If there are hunting hounds, there are probably hunters with the hounds.
True.
Yeah, for the corrupted aspect, I took I tweaked the Eye of Tyndalos from the rule book, so she can sort of see Fae magics, that sort of thing. With the corrupted stunt that I can catch, my eye catches on the angles of time, which is a evocative phrase.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. So
what does she shoot with?
A gun. Yeah, since she defected, she's she's trying to learn how to survive, so she carries a gun around.
Nice. So I guess one thing, sorry, I have so many questions. I don't know where to start. So 3 of you have come back together from the future. And what we're going to find out is how you link up with Dr. C. And I guess I'm like, as an open question, interested in people's thoughts. Were the 3 of you specifically seeking out the doctor for some reason? Is it an accident that you found the doctor? Or has the doctor in fact sought you out following these sort of, cryptic prophecies or remarks from his patients? Does anyone have a thought on what would be like the most fun take on that?
I have an idea, just to throw at you. I think there was a 4th member of our party, and it was Dr. C, but he died in transit. And
you're into that? I mean, I would like to just change that slightly to say that he just didn't arrive in the present.
Oh,
whether
okay,
he
yeah,
died or is somewhere else, who could say? That's cool.
And that we had planned on going to see the doctor, because he said that my past self would believe you, but now we don't have him to back it up. So.
Yeah, that is going to make it harder. So the 3 of you would have arrived naked with no equipment of any kind. Presumably, like, let's say somewhere, reasonably discreet, down an alley or something where, you weren't immediately, you weren't appearing naked in front of crowds of people. I guess I don't necessarily want to play out these scenes, but maybe just some vignettes about how you went about acquiring clothes or the things that you needed before you could go and find the doctor. What was that like for Faydim?
I imagine that it is. I mean, if we do it shot by shot, it is a little bit of an echo of the Terminator, where I'm just like, give me your jacket. And maybe like surprised when the person's like, oh, sees this naked woman and gives me his jacket, kind of undercuts that a little bit.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I imagine if you were you're walking down the street and you're confronted by, this obviously quite strong, like scary looking fighter, this like huge hulking guy with this big red sideburns, and Maeve, who I'm not sure is much of an obvious physical threat, but they can probably have your jacket. Bear, what was your first impression on arriving in the future?
Were we arriving in New York?
Yeah, I guess you probably were.
And just to be caught up on the ritual. So we use some of the fairy magic to bring ourselves back, right? I just want to have because I guess that'll help me figure out exactly what kind of what my aspect is too.
Yeah, so that's right. You've used fairy magic, some sort of ritual in the future to send yourselves back. You're welcome to flesh that out as much or as little as you like. If you want to put some more detail into what the scene was like as you were sent back.
Yeah, I mean, whatever I was wearing beforehand was not fit for New York. So I think I'm going to need to be reinvented. And I think I kind of submit myself to the two women to like dress me up because I don't know how to fit in a place like this. So I think, it's in the spirit of ritual and transformation. I'm like, it's time for a new me. And I hope that they can sort me out, because otherwise I'm just going to go around stinking and sweating.
So how are you going to acquire some resources to dress yourselves?
Oh my gosh.
Are you robbing someone? I mean, it seems like you're going to have to rob someone, doesn't it?
I'm not above a little petty theft.
Yeah.
I know the tale of Robin Hood.
Right.
So yeah, I imagine we see like a shivering man in an alleyway, stripped down to his boxers. And what have I got on? I guess I've just got his money, but I've also taken his clothes too as a good measure. And now I've tried them on and they're entirely too small. So I'm gonna have to go purchase new ones anyways. But I've got like a button up that I'm just squeezing out of.
It's a trip to the thrift shop.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, we get one person dressed that we can actually fit with clothing, maybe even Maeve, and send them to go and buy clothes, at some, t-shirts from a bodega, or thrift shop clothing or whatnot.
Just 3 I Heart New York t-shirts.
Yes.
They're different sizes. We are tourists after all.
So Kyle, I don't think I asked you this before, but how old is Maeve as she arrives back in the present?
I was thinking late 20s.
Cool.
Actually, let's say mid 20s. So she'd be like 15 or 16 in the present day. Like the other her past self.
Yeah. It's confusing trying to describe these time travel dynamics. I also didn't ask how old Bear is, but I just like not quite knowing. Bear seems a bit ageless to me already. So
Bear's in his prime. That's all you need to know.
Mm-hmm. Maeve, how does it feel to be back in the present?
Not great, because I mean well, on the one hand, it's not the apocalypse, and that's great. On the other hand, that means that the threats are going to be a lot more hidden. So it's obvious danger versus hidden danger. It's a mixed bag.
Mm-hmm. And the three of you presumably have the doctor's home address memorized, so you can try and track him down. Dr. C, so maybe we'll come to a scene, I guess, where they arrive at your home in an evening or something like that. But do you want to tell us a bit about your day, like a little vignette from the hospital or something else that happened during your day before you got there?
I think when Dr. C he takes the crosstown bus from Bellevue over to Chelsea, and it's not a long ride, like 20 minutes or something. But he was coming home, and there was a man on the bus who was staring at him. And then as the guy went to get off the bus, he just turned to Dr. C and said, "They're coming for you." And he got off the bus. And then when Dr. C went to get off the bus himself, he went out the front door, because the driver let him go out the front door. And the driver says to him as he's leaving, "They're coming for you." So he gets off the bus a little bit shaken, and goes and grabs some takeout food, because he lives by himself. And he's just walking down 14th Avenue, towards his apartment, with some takeout Chinese food.
Nice. And what does his apartment look like? Like, what do we see when he gets home?
So it's a walk up, probably 3 floors, and it is, the super tiny New York studio kind of, but well appointed, and everything kind of in order and neat, and one of those apartments that's tiny but has made very, very efficient use of its space. So it has like a pull down table or something that in the kitchen, which is, you can't, it's like 2 steps across the kitchen, or kitchenette maybe. And so he pulls down the table, and he pulls out his notes from the day to review them as he opens up some of the Kung Pao chicken. And starts chowing and reviewing some notes of some interesting things that came up in some of his sessions today.
Nice. So Maeve, when you arrived, you rounded up some clothes. You got a little bit of cash to cover some very short-term expenses. Like, once that happened, was it straight to Dr. C's, or have you spent some more time getting yourself established?
Yeah, I think I probably scrounged up a few, I probably found a gun and purchased it, no way I got it legally. So just, got a few weapons together or something, just in case the hounds show up. And then right over to the Dr. C's.
I mean, does that tell us something about Maeve's background, that she remembers from her mid-teens how to buy illegal weapons in New York?
Yeah, probably. Actually, even in her teens, she probably had a go bag and some fallback options in case.
Oh, interesting. All right, cool. And I mean, I don't know if the three of you want to talk about this or just play it out, but are you just going to go knock on Dr. C's door, or what is the plan to approach this guy now that, he hasn't arrived from the future with you? His future self probably told you a little bit about, what he was like that might be useful to you. But how are you going to approach this?
Maeve's planning to just talk to him. Yeah, knock on the front door and tell him a lot of things really fast.
I say, can any of us do anything that will prove our words to him?
Well, I mean, we've all got corrupted aspects, right? So, I mean, isn't that like a physical thing we could show? I mean,
So I think they're not necessarily physical. What does your Fey eye look like?
I think it just sort of like swirling black mist in the one eye.
Are you are you trying to conceal that as you move around in the present?
Yeah, I think she got an eye patch
Got
somewhere.
yourself an eye patch. Nice.
Yeah, I should help convince, unless there's something you can do, Bear.
You wouldn't want me to do the thing that I could do in his apartment.
I'm not even going to touch that line. All right, Maeve, it's on you.
All
All right. In that case, I walk up, take the eye patch off, and just knock on the door.
You can't just get into my building. This is New York City. You gotta buzz me.
Okay, fair point.
Or I have a burglary +2. So I think that I'm going to put that to use to essentially to get us in the building.
All right.
like,
Well, yeah,
do
go
we have his
ahead
unit
and
number?
roll to overcome maybe difficulty 2.
Okay. Let's see here. So this +2 gives me a 3.
Okay, cool. So you succeed. You slip in the front door. What is like? How are you? Have you found some lock picking tools, or how are you able to do that?
I imagine it's more of a like waiting for somebody to go in with groceries kind of thing. Go and hold the door. Let it close. Let them get away. I've put something in the way. When they're out of the thing, then I go inside. Not really worried about security cameras so much, and that may be to our detriment later on. But we'll go in and then go up the stairs.
Cool. All right. So I guess there is then, Dr. C, a knock on your front door.
So Dr. C looks up from his Chinese food and thinks, who's knocking on my door? Oh my God. It's Mrs. Wilson again from downstairs. She's got to start complaining about something. Okay, I can do this. And so he goes over and he opens the door. And does he see all three of you?
I think I'll have moved Bear and I off a little bit to the side at least.
So
Matt, you're
Maeve's
muted.
in the front.
Right.
Sinead just whispers, but I want to see him. And then you pull me off.
So I open the door and I guess I come face to face with Maeve and see kind of two people kind of around the corner behind the stairwell that I can't quite make out.
All of them, there's something odd about the way all of them are dressed. I'm not sure if it is literally 3 I Love New York t-shirts, but they don't look like they're from around here somehow.
So Dr. C is actually not a fearful type, and so he doesn't immediately kind of try to shut the door in their face or anything like that, thinking that he's going to be subway map, yes, tourists, that he's going to be attacked. So he looks Maeve right in the eye. And do you still have your patch on, Maeve?
I took the patch off before I knocked.
So he immediately looks at Maeve in the eye and sees the eye of Tyndalos. Is that what it is? The Fey eye. And he just squints his eyes and he kind of drops his chopsticks a little bit. You have a very unusual eye.
Yes, and your Dr. C, your patients have been telling you impossible things, and with increasing frequency. And I'm here to tell you that some of those things are true.
You have me at a disadvantage, young lady.
Maeve McClory. I hold out my hand to shake.
Dr. C shakes her hand and says, now about that eye. What do you see with that eye?
Too many things.
What do you see when you look at me?
I'm assuming I see some kind of you're attuned to the supernatural. You're got those strange twists of fate. I think I probably just say something like unusual luck, strangeness is like hovering around you.
Who are your friends? Are those your friends over there?
All right, it sounds good. Can we go see him now?
Yeah, it's probably best if they come over here. Don't want to leave them unsupervised.
I would invite you in, but I don't think all of you will fit in my apartment. So he steps out into the hallway and shuts the door and says, gentlemen, I'm Dr. Cifuentes, but it seems like you all may have me at a disadvantage.
Do you want the long version or the short version?
Dr. C is intrigued. He wants to ask for the long version, but give me the short version and we can fill in the blanks later.
The end of the world happens in a year, and we're from 10 years after that. Come back to stop it.
Of course. So Dr. C has heard time travel delusions before.
Your name is Dr. C. And I think we'll rattle off things we know. We've heard from Dr. C, personal anecdotes, that kind of thing.
And you wet the bed until you were 14.
Stop.
You shouldn't say that out loud. That's rude, sir. But
You
impossible
said it
that you
out loud
might
to me.
know that.
I had you deep in your cups one night. You told me all sorts of things. Well, many
Huh.
nights.
Deep in my cups with you. That doesn't sound too bad.
Smells good in there.
You're welcome to have some Chinese food. It's not very much. Are you hungry
I
from your
walk
time
past it.
travel? Or you could barely fit in there just by yourself.
Can we go someplace where we can sit and talk with relatively private?
Well, it probably makes sense for you to come in anyways, even though we don't quite fit. It'll be cozy. What do you think? Seems like you three are pretty familiar with one another. You won't mind a little coziness?
Fair enough.
So we all squeeze into the apartment.
I go over to where the little kitchenette is. It's the sink. Put myself up on top of that and sit there.
My mouth's full of Chinese food, and I say, it was a smaller room than this where we performed the ritual.
So, from the future to stop the apocalypse, is that correct?
That's it.
So, what can a simple psychiatrist do to help you heroic types?
Simple.
I'm glad you asked. And then I guess I'll outline the premise of the four. Is it 4 or 5
So the
key points in the timeline?
Yeah, that's right. There's the fifth is the actual rise of the actual apocalypse itself. So there's 4 that lead up to that.
We have 1 year to stop these things. You came with us. but something happened and you didn't make it.
Dr. C's never heard that one before.
In a year, Her Dark Majesty will awaken here in New York, and the world will never be the same.
Are you speaking of the Faerie Queen?
That's the one.
One of my patients today was telling me a long story about the Faerie Queen and her interest in this world. She believed that she was an agent of the Faerie Queen, come to pave the way for her return. Strange coincidence that I should hear that story and then hear this one from you. I'm
It's a
listening.
strange twist of fate, isn't it?
Strange twist of fate, yes. Well, you have me listening.
We have to start dealing with these things. We have to diminish them as much as we can, or else it comes.
Let me tell you, it's been a long 11 years, Dr. C, and you don't want to see them.
What am I like in 10 years?
You age well.
That's good to know.
Yeah, you're a right silver fox, I tell you that.
Good to know I age well. Been kind of dreading my 40s, but we'll see. Apparently, I'll do it well.
So at this point, Maeve, I would like to offer to compel one of your aspects. So when I offer a compel, well, anyone can offer a compel. If you accept the compel, which complicates the story in some way, you get 1 extra fate point. If you reject the compel, it costs you a fate point. And sorry, as I say this, I just noticed that you have 2 down there. So I think you're refreshing your fate points should be 3.
I had to take an extra stunt.
So the enchantment stunt doesn't cost you refresh.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that'll be a 3. So the compel I would like to offer is on the hounds have my scent aspect. And the compel is that something followed you back from the future.
Sounds great. I'll
All right.
take it.
Take a fate point. And why don't you take an overcome action using, sorry, I'm just looking at what the skills are in this game. I think maybe investigate.
All right. To do what?
Well, to
okay.
perceive the thing that has followed you back through time and is now watching invisibly.
Would that be notice? Because
yeah, if there's a notice skill, then for sure it is. Sorry about that.
Oof, I got a 1.
All right, well, let's see how well they roll. All right, so they've rolled a 3. If you want, you can invoke an aspect to bring that up to a tie. What will you get for a tie on an overcome action? So I always have to reference these. So on a tie to overcome, you can succeed at a minor cost, or you can fail but take a boost, or you can just leave it with the loss, in which case you...
I'd like to spend a fate point to re-roll. I think I'm going to use my Fae
sure.
Eye if I can.
Wait,
can I use a fate point on an enchanted aspect still normally, or?
Sorry, let me have a look at your... So yes, you can use a fate point to invoke the Fae Eye. You can definitely do that.
All right.
And that will Sorry, are you using that to re-roll or to add +2?
I'd like to re-roll.
Go ahead.
Still a fail. All right, I'll take the loss.
All right. Well, in that case, you should roll to defend because you're about to get stabbed.
Youch.
Alrighty. Guess I'll defend with fight. It seems appropriate.
So I think that you can. Let me just double check. I think that you can use fight to defend. Yeah, sorry, fight to defend physical melee attacks.
It's got a 2.
All right, let's see. He's going to roll. Oof. Oh, so he's going to roll a 10. That means that, so this sort of tall, elegant Fey courtier who's been invisibly observing things suddenly appears visibly in the middle of the room. And Maeve, you notice him first of all because his rapier is piercing your chest. And he has done 8 shifts of damage to you, which you will either need to absorb or spend some aspects to reduce.
All right. I guess I'll take a.
So if you take 3 physical stress, you're going to still need to absorb 5 physical stress as things stand, which would be a severe consequence. Or you could let yourself be taken out of the scene. That also works. Or you can start using aspects to reduce that amount.
I think I might just get taken out at the scene.
All right. So what does that look like?
I think I'm talking to Dr. C, and then just the sword comes out of my chest. I looked at it like, told you, and just sort of pass out.
All right. So the 3 of you are face to face with this Fey swordsman, and that's where we're going to take our second break. So let's take about 5 minutes. We'll come back just past the hour.
Okay.
Cool. Everyone ready to keep going?
Yes.
Right. So I have a tab in the Keeper now called Apartment Fight, which sets out our aspects, zones, initiative, things like that. Just to mention, you'll see up the top in the middle there, there's a list of timeline aspects. So those are aspects related to the 5 events in the quarterly. You're always able to invoke those aspects. You gain a small bonus. The timeline shifts gently in your favor anytime you invoke a timeline aspect and succeed on a roll. So just to bear that in mind, they're there for you to use. The way initiative works is that once you take an action, you pass the initiative off to someone else. I think that having basically gutted Maeve, the swordsman will sort of look a little surprised and mutter something about, forgetting how flimsy you mortals are. Then looks you straight in the eye, Dr. C. It's going to pass the initiative to you. What will you do?
So I don't know the sequence between narrative and roll here. So you tell me how I should do this. But what I want to do is that Dr. C has seen this type of fairy in a dream before. And he knows something about a weakness that they have. So would I narrate that now, or should I roll to attempt it and then narrate depending upon the success or failure?
Yeah, I think probably roll first. So I think you're probably talking about creating an advantage using law. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
I think we'll just give this a difficulty of 2. So go ahead and roll.
Okay, so I have all right. So I have a 4 in lore, but since I have the arcane adept stunt, that'll put another 2 on it because I'm trying to create an advantage here. So we'll see what that does.
Oh, cool. Yeah. All right, so that's a success with style. So you can name the aspect that you create, and it's going to have 2 free invokes on it.
So, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to name the aspect that I create. So what I'm imagining narratively is that this type of fae is very much bonded to their sword, and that the scabbard itself, if they lose access to the scabbard, they lose access to the sword. And so the scabbard of the sword is actually a weak point. So
I mean, I would just call it, like, there's no need to complicate it. Let's just say scabbard is weakness or something like that.
Yeah, get the scabbard. And that's what he'll say, I think, out loud, is he'll say, get that scabbard away from him.
Cool. And then you can pass the initiative to someone else.
Someone sneaky. Oh no, Maeve's the sneaky one, and she's impaled.
Send in the killer.
Bring in the killer. The quick one. Wait, names. I can remember names. Faydim. I'll pass to Faydim.
I will turn to Bear and I will say, get them out of here. Meaning Maeve and the doctor. And then I, since I'm sitting in what passes for a kitchenette, I grab whatever kind of kitchen knife he has. And I'm going close in to go under the guard, and I'm going Stabby McStabberson
Nice.
On this fairy.
Well, go ahead and roll an attack.
Okay. So let's see. I've got 1 + 4 is a 5.
All right.
And I'm going to use one of the free invokes to go ahead and right away bump it up to a 7, just to increase my edge here.
Nice. So how, like, what does that look like narratively? You kind of like create an opening by lunging at the scabbard, or?
Yeah, I think that it looks like I'm going in for a stab at the chest, and then I'm slamming the kitchen knife into the scabbard and pushing him back into like the corner towards where the bathroom is, the little come off, like it's not much space, and everything's going everywhere.
Nice. All right, so let's see if I don't like his chances to defend this effectively, but let's see. All right, he's rolled a 5, so let's see that. Yeah, so he will take what, 2 points of harm.
I'm going to now spend one of my fate points and add another +2 onto that.
All right.
And I will invoke the fallen shield maiden aspect, just to make sure that we do a significant hit here and his attention is fully upon me.
Yeah, all right. So do you want to like narrate that anymore? He's definitely going to look pretty badly hurt.
Smashing him against the wall, like doing the stabbing, like in, it's brutal. It's not at all clean. We're in here. It's very Bourne in some ways more than anything else. And certainly the camera is handheld at this point. I'm like cursing him in a mix of High Faerie, Turkish, and German at this point.
And he like will cough up a little blood as he's thrust back against the wall. He has this look of like surprise that a mere human could do something like this. And he kind of like narrows his eyes and sniffs and says, "Wait, weren't you the baronet's pet? I know you."
I will hand the initiative to Bear.
All right. So just before Bear takes a turn, can I just ask, like, Maeve, when you were taken out, like, what does that look like? Are you unconscious? Are you just like, fallen? What's too scared to move? What's happening?
Maybe not unconscious, but just like blood loss, like on the verge of passing out, just sort of on the ground.
All right, cool, thank you. So Bear, what do you do?
I quickly grab a drop sheet from the couch, and I wrap it around Maeve's torso to try to compress the wound as much as I can and squeeze it tight. And then I press a sprig of rowan berries into her hand to hold, and say, "Not today, not after all this." And I scoop her up and I grab the doctor with my other hand and holding both of them under both of my arms. And I think I'm like beaming at the doctor as I scoop him up, and I say, "I knew you were brilliant." And I dash out the door with both of those. So I'd like to, I guess, is it overcome an obstacle with athletics maybe?
Yeah, sure. Well, let me just ask, Dr. C, are you happy to be taken out like this? Sorry, escorted out. Taken out is a game mechanic.
No, yes. Dr. C is happy to be taken out of the dangerous situation with the deadly fae.
All right. Yeah, just overcome with athletics with a difficulty of 2.
Okay. So my athletics is 2. So that means probably my odds are not excellent. So I can spend.
So just start by rolling, and then you can decide once you see the result whether you want to stack something on it.
great. So just 2 fudge dice, right?
So 4 fudge dice plus your modifier.
Oh, I see.
All right. So
So bad.
if you want to spend a fate point to invoke an aspect, that will be enough to get you out of there.
Is it worth using the free invoke, or I guess I can leave that to Faydim?
I mean, it's hard for me to see how you're going to use the aspect that the scabbard is a weakness to get them out of there. Maybe there's a narrative that I'm not seeing, but if you've got an explanation, you can do that.
I'd have to like use a throwing knife to like drive him further back or something, but I could probably just invoke my high concept, right? Rebel captain, I imagine I've had to rescue, carry quite a few of my companions out of danger before.
Yeah, that definitely works. So just spend a fate point.
Cool.
And the 3 of you blast out into the hallway. Dr. C, you can already hear Mrs. Wilson downstairs getting ready to complain. And Bear, who do you want to pass the initiative to?
Wow, this is interesting. I kind of want to pass to Dr. C. Is there a reason not to pass to Faydim? I don't know. I'm trying to think of how to like.
I can't see any reason why you wouldn't just go back to Faydim to finish the fight.
Me neither. So I'm going to do that.
And so we're at the top of the next round then?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Okay. Then I will essentially try to get this fairy over close to the window as I'm doing the stabbing, with the thought of either throwing them out of that window or something, and maybe realizing it's double pane vinyl and like just beating on them as best I can. So I will. Oh, I've lost my tab here. So dumb.
Yeah, I have a lot of tabs going at the moment. I'm really struggling.
It's no Legacy Life Among the Ruins. But okay, so there's that. Okay, got that open, and okay, there. Okay, and the keeper, the roller. Okay, here we go. So standard fight roll?
Yeah.
0 plus 4. I'll use the other invoke. And I'll start out with a 6 before I do anything else.
All right, let's see how he does.
What the what?
So that's going to take you to a tie. You want to spend a fate point?
Yeah, I think I feel like I've got to make this count. So I will again spend another fate point on Fallen Shield Maiden.
Up to 2. He is going to spend a fate point to bring his defense up to meet you. So he's going to spend a fate point on his murderous vanity aspect. There's no way he's going to let himself be taken out by.
Now, burn my last fate point. I am dutiful in service. This is me doing what needs to be done. I will burn my last fate point.
Well,
Make
sorry
him
to s-
either pay his other fate point. I'm willing to cost him resources.
Yeah, he will burn another fate point. He's going to use. Sorry, I'm in the wrong tab. He's going to burn another fate point to invoke the cramped New York apartment aspect. He just like manages to get that little like sofa chair in between the two of you to buy himself enough time. And that
Oh,
will
if you fit all of this furniture in this little place.
So on a tie, you don't cause harm, but you do get a boost.
Okay.
Do you want to give the boost a name? Or just
Essentially pinned behind the sofa.
all right. So just for people to know, a boost is a kind of aspect that can only ever be used once and then it's gone, and it doesn't cost a fate point to use. Who will you pass the initiative back to?
I think I will pass it to Dr. C now at this point. Eventually, we've got to hand it off to him, but let's delay that as long as possible.
That's right.
So from the hallway, Dr. C, once he's been dropped by the bear, looks back into the hallway, into the room, and sees the scuffle, and also remembers how vain these courtiers are. And then he's going to yell out at the Fae assassin, "Oh my God, that was the most graceless performance I have ever seen!"
Drag him.
I'm trying to create an advantage somehow.
Yeah, I reckon roll to create an advantage using provoke.
Ooh, provoke is not a good one for me.
He's going to defend using will.
Okay. Well, maybe I will get lucky. Let's see. Famous last words. I think I have a 0 in provoke. I just want to double check that. So lore wouldn't work, right? Because my understanding that he's particularly vain.
Yeah, I mean, I think
need
that
to
you'd-
use provoke.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I will do my best.
Sorry, I said create an advantage. If you want, you could attack using provoke to try and like deal some mental stress.
I'd like to try to create an advantage.
Okay, sure.
All right, let's see what I get. Okay,
Right.
so I got a 0.
All right, so let him roll to defend first, and then you can see if you want to
Yeah.
use any fate points. Oh, he's at -1.
Mm.
So yeah, I think I will let you. He won't spend a fate point here.
Okay. Can I spend a fate point?
I mean, you don't need. You can if you want to bring it up to a success with style, but you're already winning. You're already succeeding.
What would the advantage be to put it up to more?
So if you beat the difficulty by 3 or more, you succeed with style. And when you create an advantage and succeed with style, you get 2 free invokes rather than 1.
It's about the number of invokes. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay, I'll just leave it at that then. Hopefully this. Well, actually,
I mean, the other thing to think about is we're getting close to the end of the session. Like you're going to refresh at the start of the next session.
All right, so
There's
I'll take one then. I can use. I guess I wasn't supposed to know that.
Yeah.
In terms of knowing about his delicate vanity.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so I'll take that up to a 3, and cut to the quick would be his
Nice.
aspect.
Awesome. And you want to pass the initiative to Bear or to the swordsman? Sorry, you're muted.
I will pass the initiative to Bear.
That is going to create a situation where he gets to pass it back to himself if he survives this round. Just so you know. But yeah, go ahead, Bear.
Well, let's make sure he doesn't survive this round then.
Let's see.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So what does Bear do?
Bear sets his friends down. And he says, just keep a low profile. No more of those, all right? And he turns and you see like veins popping out of his neck as he runs back into the room roaring. He grabs the table on the way and picks it up and smashes it on the couch as he walks by until he's holding just a big wooden table leg, and he comes rushing into the corner of the room where the two of them are dueling to smash.
All right, well, attack with fight.
Okay. I don't think I'm hopelessly outmatched.
Yeah,
so I don't
probably
think I can
not.
Invoke here. All right.
Nice. Let's see how he does defending.
Alright.
Oh, so he's beaten you by 1. You've got some free invokes, and I mean, if Lol's happy for you to use the boost, there's that as well.
Yeah, I was going to say throw the
What is the boost?
+2.
And that is from
That's from my opinion behind the stove. Essentially, it's a temporary. It's like I create a temporary thing that's going to go away really quick if we don't use it.
got it. So
It's like a forward, effectively.
cool. Can I use the boost and the free invoke on the scabbard?
So there's no more free invokes on the scabbard, but there's a couple of free invokes on the cut to the quick aspect that Dr. C just created. You can use both of those if you want. You can use multiple free invokes on the same attack. That would bring you up to 5 shifts of harm.
Yes, do it.
Which will be more than he can defend, to clarify.
I think that's what we want to do. I think we're just trying to max out this one attack as much as possible.
All right. So yeah, you'll take him out then. Do you want to describe what happens?
Yeah, so Faydim has been like harrying him and has got him in the corner of the room by the kitchen, I think. And you hear my roar start up. Actually, I think it's at first like vibrates in my chest. Like this is maybe where Bear came from. And as soon as you hear that low rumbling, you know I'm about to let loose. So as I come charging in the room, you create an opening for me. And I think I mean the invokes are on cut to the quick too. So I think Sianad comes into the room laughing and says, "It got you good, he did." And I think it's a club to like the side of his body where his scabbard is and where his belt and everything. And I think the scabbard cracks in two, and he like crumples in half basically at the force of the impact of the swing. Yeah.
Well, congratulations! You have defeated the first of the Queen's servants. What will you do now? Maeve is bleeding badly. You may not want to tell a hospital about what happened. Dr. C, you probably have some medical training, right?
Yeah, I'm a psychiatrist, so I'm actually a medical doctor.
Yeah.
So I run in and I have a medical bag there. I don't know what the level of the injury is, but I can try to treat it.
Yeah. Just because Kyle chose to be taken out, there's no like mechanical injury there that you need to like roll to deal with or anything. So you can just narrate, helping her, fixing her up. I definitely think that you'll be interrupted by Mrs. Wilson. Dr. Cifuentes, what is it this time? There's blood out here in the hallway, the noise, is there an animal in there? You know the rules about pets.
So Dr. C comes out. He knows how to deal with Mrs. Wilson. He puts his arm around her and puts his most charming voice on and says, "Oh, Mrs. C, you know, I just have these friends. There's been some drinking. That's not real blood. I think we're just fooling around. You know how boys are, and girls." So I'm sure I will have this all cleaned up. Don't you worry, there are no animals in the apartment. I can vouch for these boys. And so why don't you go on down and why don't you take some of this lovely mushu? I know you love mushu, and take that with you, and you can enjoy that tonight. I don't know if there's a roll there.
I think that's good. So I think we might finish up there for this week. Is there anything else that anyone wants their character to do or say to finish out this scene?
What happens to the Fae when they die? That's what I want to know. Is it? Do we have a bloodied Fae corpse here, or is it what happens?
Flowers. A mess of bruised petals.
Yeah, I would like to propose too that the scabbard breaks, maybe the sword disappears, and we do have maybe some cold iron that we can use. I don't know, like if there's probably methods of actually killing fairies. So, but yeah, I'm also curious as to how that works.
I love the idea of flowers, like that they come from different orders, like the knights come from different orders, and this is like a night of flowers. And so when he dies, that's what's left behind.
Yeah, the night of clover.
We'll see what other kinds of exciting things that your enemies can turn into when they die.
I love it.
Cool. Kyle, I feel bad that your character barely got to participate in that fight, but next time I'm sure Maeve will have more to say. So just as we finish up, there's a few things that we'll do at the end of each session, and one is to check how you have affected the timeline. So if you jump to the timeline track tab in the character keeper, you'll see up the top there's a set of boxes for both the Queen and the Resistance, and we mark these boxes when certain things happen. The Queen marks a box. I don't think any of these happen, but just so you know, if a player accepts a compel on an enchanted aspect or invokes an enchanted aspect, if you succeed at a cost, if it benefits the Queen somehow, if you mark enchantment, or if a minion of the Faerie Queen achieves a goal. We didn't see any of those this time. Your side, the Resistance, marks a box if you invoke a timeline aspect and succeed, if you foil one of the Queen's minions, if you make a heroic last stand, or at the end of an event. So I think we just have the one there. Obviously, you foiled one of the Queen's minions. So we'll just mark that first box. And just so you know, mechanically, when we fill that line for either of you, we'll clear the line and mark one of the ripples. And it's those ripples that you can see out in the left and right that actually start to transform the timeline. The last thing for us to do then is for you to decide which of the 4 events you would like to tackle first. So this is an out of character discussion. Couple of things to bear in mind. So it can be a purely like this one sounds fun type decision, but some things that you may want to consider tactically. When you succeed, you can rewrite the timeline aspect for that event. So if there are any where you want to get that timeline aspect out of the way, you might want to tackle that first. The other is that those timeline ripples are going to transform the events like the later events in the campaign. So if there's some where you're like, I like the way that sounds now, I don't want it to change, you'd want to tackle those earlier. whereas the later events in the campaign are likely to have changed pretty significantly because of your own impacts on the timeline.
My suggestion would be we either do a Midsummer's Night's Dream or the Gingerbread Church because they are spatially close by. I like the idea of dealing with those. I suspect the Gingerbread Church may be a little more like a chance for us to get settled into this world, whereas the Midsummer Night's Dream, the Met Gala, we may not be ready to go to the Met Gala.
We need better outfits.
Yes. That's my suggestion.
Kyle, do you have a thought or a preference?
Gingerbread Church sounds good to me. I mean, yeah, but I'm flexible.
Jose? You're muted. So you're still muted?
Sorry,
Okay.
all the controls disappeared on me. Like, okay, they're back. Yeah, I'm flexible. It makes sense for it to be in New York somewhere. So either in the Catskills, we could take the train up there, or at the Met. And yeah, I'm sure we could find some outfits that might be part of the adventure. So either of those is fine.
Cool. And Matt, what do you reckon?
Yeah, and I kind of like the thought of saving the ones that are connected to the dancing plague, and maybe one that has hounds involved for later in the campaign. And yeah, it makes sense to do some New York gaming while we're here.
Right.
And then Dr. C can kind of like, this is his home right now, so I feel like that gives his character a grounding point while he's not kind of as caught up in the conspiracy as we are.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it might be fun to like do that and go overseas or elsewhere and then circle back and like save the Met kind of for last, because that's like just before she arrives, so that we can dramatically set that up.
I love that.
That sounds good. So we'll do the Gingerbread Church next time. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now, and then we'll do Stars and Wishes.